tables, what they do is applications that you can run on your devices, whatever it is, laptop, handset, or whatever. So they are online, and we'll give them the opportunity to do that. After them, we can get to Gramercy. So Primal Pictures, you can take it away.
Sure thing. Good evening, Sanu, as well as Salam Alaikum to everybody joining from across the entire Anatomical Society of Nigeria. I'm going to try and turn on my camera if possible, but if not, I just want to say a massive thank you for allowing us the opportunity to present. And just to give you a quick introduction and background into who I am, my name is Nadir. I am an anatomist from Cape Town, South Africa. And I'm also a proud member of the Learning Curve Medical Education team. Now, we serve as the sole proud providers of Primal Pictures to both South Africa, Africa, as well as Australia. And in today's little session that we have together, I want to touch on a topic that I think resonates with every single one of us in this room, that being the art of dissection. And so in the next 20 minutes that we have together, I want to focus on how we can use Primal Pictures to help blend tradition and technology to effectively overcome various anatomy education barriers in the 21st century by leveraging off the powers of these diverse resources to promote inclusivity, sustainability, as well as accessible learning throughout the entire African continent. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to perhaps keep them towards the end of the session, because I want to make sure that I can address them as best as possible. Now, first and foremost, I'll go about focusing on how we can reimagine anatomy using the transformative power of Primal Pictures 3D digital technologies. I'll address a few different challenges facing anatomy education within the 21st century, the associated promises of using these digital tools, and then ultimately how we can leverage off the power of Primal Pictures whilst helping you, being the anatomist, together with your institution, build a successful and resilient partnership with Learning Curve. Now, something that I think I just want to address, and that was initially mentioned, is that Primal Pictures doesn't have a touch table. However, what you'll see in just a moment is you are able to effectively and easily integrate Primal Pictures into a digital touch table. And so before I continue along with our brief exploration, the overarching theme is anatomy is an ever-evolving subject. It forms the universal language for that of medicine, nursing, physiotherapy, and a whole host of other disciplines. And as we saw, following that of the COVID-19 pandemic, our students made the gradual progress over to a digital section, allowing us as lecturers to really implement a blended learning style. And so ultimately, we need to focus on adapting our needs, making sure that we can help train the next generation of healthcare professionals to be competent lifelong learners with the effective digital tools to succeed. And so that's where we need to focus on addressing a combination of different challenges facing anatomy education across Africa. And I want to break that down into two different avenues, namely traditional anatomy education, followed by accessibility and infrastructure. Now, I'm sure this is something that many universities currently face, especially within Nigeria, and that is the consistent shortage of global body donors. There's also the high costs associated with maintaining said dissection labs, let alone the establishment of those facilities. There's ultimately the issues of equity, diversity, and inclusivity within anatomy education. And then there's something that does sadden me to say at times, is that a lot of the students tend to get disconnected with our subjects. And that ultimately translates to poorer academic performance, meaning we have medical students that don't have all the necessary understanding when it comes to anatomy. And then something that I'm sure you as lecturers often face on a daily, that being the high faculty to student ratio, with the students also not getting enough time to stand in front of a body donor or cadaver to effectively identify those different anatomical structures. When relating to the inadequate access to quality educational resources, this is very apparent, especially within remote or underserviced regions or campuses. And then there's the overarching disparity in access to these technologies. Likewise, between Africa and the West, and even more so between Northern, Central, and Southern Africa. And so the overarching goal, as well as the golden thread for today, is we want to ensure and assist you in helping your students, as well as every single university or college, equip yourselves, your researchers, as well as your students with an accessible digital tool and the necessary digital skills to excel in a tech-driven anatomy-based workforce. Now, at minimum, every single one of you joining today's session, whether it's virtually or from the shared space, has access to a smartphone or perhaps a laptop. But your hardware is only ever as good as your software. And so that's where we need to introduce the highly beneficial software platform of Primal Pictures. Now, as you'll see with this particular section, as our presenter, apologies, as our doctor has stated, anatomy at times is the only subject, one of the many subjects when it comes to health sciences, that can literally cost you an arm and a leg. And this translates back to the fact of the highly specialized focus for anatomy. Many of the students often have to pay large amounts for textbooks, and so we need to provide them with access to a scalable and affordable solution. And that's what Primal Pictures offers you, a virtual textbook that allows you to access content from anywhere, anytime on any device at a reasonable and affordable cost. And so, if we focus on now delving into the promise of these digital anatomy education tools, and we take a look at the example of the image on screen. Now, I've personally worked with various nursing colleges and medical schools to help them elevate both the teaching and learning experience for anatomy. And you can see in this particular section, we have a young nursing student making use of the virtual dissection space through a virtual reality headset. In this instance, I'm able to cast or project my screen to my laptop or a presentation board, allowing every single student behind her to follow along and visualize the exact content as they all improve their understanding with both spatial awareness as well as their identification skills. By touching on the precise benefits, this allows us to unleash the potential of every single student, making anatomy both fun and memorable. It ensures retention and that the knowledge ultimately sticks. It allows us to overcome those various geographical barriers, allowing students to use a platform from anywhere, anytime, and on any device, both offline as well as online. And it standardizes the level of anatomy education because ultimately, and I'm sure this is something that many of you would also state, a talented surgeon, or in this case, either a talented nurse, is first and foremost a lover of anatomy. And so, as stated in the quote by Ms. Jody Limpane, she was able to use Primal Pictures during her practical demonstrations for her lectures, allowing her students to collaborate, ultimately improving their identification skills, their retention, and their love for the subject of anatomy. Now, when we focus on addressing some of Africa's key educational challenges, we're once again going to break that down into two different avenues. Firstly, how do we make anatomy education more accessible in Africa, whilst also promoting equity, diversity, and inclusivity? When it comes to affordability, using a scalable digital solution like Primal Pictures allows us to minimize on the expenses of traditional methods, such as on-site dissection with cadavers, not having to go about storing said bodies, because we're able to use virtual dissection on either a smartphone, tablet, virtual reality headset, or the touch table. It gives us this scalability option, being able to harness the resource and expand our overall reach to various students through a blended learning approach, and also promotes the sustainability aspect, minimizing that dependence on physical resources or old, outdated material. And then it comes down to equal access. We have disparities between what students can access and can't access. And that isn't something that we as lecturers can often ensure. And so giving the students access to an affordable option that meets a range of different settings, whilst overcoming and promoting equal quality of care to emphasize diversity in gender, body size, skin color, and age, also promoting a personalized learning pathway that meets the various precise teaching and learning styles. And so, ladies and gentlemen, without further delay, I now want to introduce you to the world's leading digital anatomy and health science education resource, being that of best in breed, known as Primal Pictures.
Welcome to the world's leading 3D anatomy resource for educators, students, practitioners, and industry professionals. Welcome to Primal Pictures. Now available on any device, anywhere, anytime you need it. Make learning come alive with the click of a button. With over 30 years of academic research and development, Primal Pictures continues to produce the most detailed, most accurate, evidence-based 3D anatomy product on the market. Engage with confidence, knowing our 3D models have been exclusively built from real scans and imaging data. Focus on learning, assured that every aspect of our content has been peer-reviewed by a team of clinical experts. Increase understanding through quizzes and adaptive learning modules, resulting in improved student outcomes. Discover the breadth and depth of content that is only available in the world's largest 3D human anatomy product. Primal Pictures is not just a pretty face. We have the brains too. In addition to instant mobile access, Primal Pictures content can also be embedded in your institution's learning management system. Share images with students or colleagues. Download them for later review or use in presentations. Primal Pictures has strategically crafted a portfolio of content, supporting the journey from student to practice across all health sciences. With the recent additions of pathophysiology animations and modules covering a variety of clinical specialties, Primal Pictures now supports every health science curriculum. Dive deeper to further your comprehension and enthusiasm with Primal VR, a fully immersive virtual environment for teaching and learning human anatomy. Make learning come alive with the click of a button. Contact Primal Pictures to learn more.
All right. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope that's given you a good thorough overview in terms of what Primal Pictures is and what the platform has to offer. Now, with over 30 years of industry experience, the one thing that we really pride ourselves on is that being anatomists, being able to speak the language of our partners. Now, we want to support every single university across the continent, specifically that of Nigeria and beyond, to overcome various educational barriers. Primal Pictures is a completely modularized platform, meaning we're able to create a customizable package that not only meets your institution's specific educational needs, from functional anatomy and therapy to nursing, dentistry, we also cater to a wide variety of diverse needs. Primal Pictures being, being created from real scan data, ensures that you're able to teach your students through the most realistic and medically accurate interpretation of human anatomy possible. Likewise, you're able to easily embed the content in your learning management system, such as Moodle, Canvas, or Blackboard, as well as any customized options. There's also various reputable societies that we've chosen to partner with, such as the Amsterdam UMC, to create the world's only and leading realistic representation to simplify embryological development. Now, like you saw in the video, there's also the ability to use augmented reality completely offline, taking the element of virtual dissection one step further, allowing the students to also project or cast a 3D model into the living space alongside their cadaver, body donor, or fellow student to improve their identification skills. And likewise, taking that immersive learning approach one step further, there's the advantage of using virtual reality, together with a combination of case studies, interactive learning activities, as well as a fully fleshed out section focusing on using medical imaging. Now, something I just want to foreshadow is that you'll see with Mr. Georgiel van Wyk in this case, he foresaw that these types of technologies would rapidly improve the understanding and overall pass rates for his students, and something that we're very proud to boast. Following one of our clients, in this case, one of our partnered nursing colleges, they effectively reported a 75% increase in the pass rates for anatomy with their students. And so we have the privilege of being able to support over 45 universities across both South Africa, Australia, with 1,500 institutions globally. Now, something that I just want to bring to your attention is this specific LinkedIn post. Now, this is something I recently came across a few weeks ago because it's something that really resonated with me. And if I can simply echo the words of Miss Faith Paul, who is a anatomy student, anatomy is often at times perceived as just morgue sciences. However, it's something truly magical. Anatomy as a subject gives us the blueprint to step into surgical excellence, whilst opening us up to a gateway of various different specialties, from radiological anatomy, biomedical engineering, and so the Gen Zs of today, our current and future anatomists, want to learn using a digital resource that gives them the flexibility to be both creative, bold, and to improve their understanding and breathe new life into the subject. And there's no better way to do so other than Primal Pictures. If I now show you a quick little example using the augmented reality feature, I simply want to echo the words of Professor Simone Titus, who was one of South Africa's leading health education professionals. It's no longer about teaching educators and students about these new technologies. It's about helping prepare them to excel in a digital driven workforce. And so, as we take a look at the video using augmented reality for that virtual dissection space, I'm able to activate what we call the cadaver colors to simulate or mimic the authentic experience. I can also use what we like to refer to as a digital twin, using a authentic dissection image next to a 3D model for easy comparative analysis. I'm also able to create customizable test questions, study notes, or case studies. And now you'll see I'm able to project that model using augmented reality, being able to place that anatomical model in any particular anatomical plane or position. I can even physically, as you'll see in just a moment, move my cell phone camera inside the cranial cavity, walking my way down the larynx to visualize those very complex anatomical structures. And this now gives the student the opportunity to take learning into their own hands so that they can improve their identification skills, whether at home, in the dissection hall, taking learning beyond the classroom to the clinic. And likewise, for you as a lecturer, you're able to improve the dissection capabilities during your practical demonstrations, really helping your students grasp the concepts, ultimately improving their pass rates, their retention, and creating lovers for the subject of anatomy. Now, as a nice little final note, we at Learning Curve want to help you build a successful and resilient educational partnership. And you'll see with some of these different examples, we want to make sure that we can continuously support our partners, whether that be for the students hosting regular training, to also assist the lecturers with building the necessary capacity to integrate the resource effectively into your daily teaching schedules. You'll see between the two different images for the touch table, this is my colleague Stephanie, now assisting not only anatomists, but also surgeons during surgical preparation, with us also typically participating in various associations to help promote digital anatomy for the next generation. And as stated by Ms. Vuvukhadebe, we always want to make sure that we're able to help you succeed. And so our vision for the future is to potentially see every single Nigerian university, health science institution, or simply nursing college benefit from the power of Primal Pictures. And so in the secondary slide, if you'd like to learn more about Primal Pictures, as well as the work that we do at Learning Curve, you're welcome to scan the current QR code. Otherwise, we also have individualized offers. We typically work through an institutional model, providing access to every single staff member and student. However, if you'd like to learn more, please feel free to reach out to me at the email address listed on the screen, and every single institution is entitled to a free 30-day trial. That will be accompanied by training on how to maximize and unleash your potential with the power of Primal Pictures. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. And if there are any questions, the floor is now open. Ladies and gentlemen, if there are any questions, you're welcome to go ahead and ask me. Otherwise, I will be sure to pop my email address over in the chat box, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any potential queries or if you'd like to request a free 30-day trial.